Okay, can you hear me? What? Whoa. Can you hear me? Hello, hello? Okay, good. It isn't circling now, so that's good. So, yeah, what I was saying, even though I still think she's a scumbag attacker, and I think she's a liar, and I think she's a hate mongering fool, and I think she's committed slander and libel and defamation and IIED, and I think she has been unfairly attacking Cindy Watts for way too long. Even though all of that is still how I think and what I feel, I do think she was right about the circus. I do. But here's the thing, I think she's connected to it also. I think they're all connected. I'm beginning to wonder if the initial goal of the attacks against those of us they targeted right at the start, if the initial goal was not to gain total control over the discussion. Because when I look around at the different channels, I can't name one that I trust. I can't. And they run around, they love the word paranoid. Oh, men says paranoid. Yeah, because, like, they all keep proving that they're part of the scam. That's a good way to, it's called gaslighting. Mensa's paranoid. That way when Mensa says, well, there's another scumbag attacker, they just proved it, then it's like, oh, Mensa's paranoid. Mm-mm-mm. The reasons are many why I think that they're all part of the package. One of the reasons is that none of them know anything about the case. They don't know what they're talking about. They're saying things that have been proven wrong. They're lying over and over and over again. And if you ask them a question, watch out. Exactly. It's like we're the only channel where we have actual people discussing the case. We're the only channel. And I think that that's probably what was behind the attacks right from the start. They wanted total control over any discussion on this case. It makes you wonder what other cases they have total control over. You know that Brenda Leland video? I almost said audio. That Brenda Leland video that AD put up today? Isn't it interesting that 3 or 4 hours before he put that up, some asshole posted on our channel that I was going to be the next Brenda Leland? And then all of a sudden, AD had the Brenda Leland video up? Isn't it interesting how that works? They're all connected. All of them. So I think that was the goal of the attacks against us right from the start, was to have total control over the discussion. Cosmic Messenger says it's all about the money. So that's evidently what they do, is they want to own the discussion so that they can rake in the cash. And let's face it, not that many people are discussing the case of Christopher Watts, right? There aren't that many people who actually give a crap about this case. There are a lot of cases out there that are a lot more interesting, without toxicity going on. Well, what they want, Paula, they just want to shut down any free discussion on this case. You know, to start in with their threatening comments again, it happens every time. Interest in the case dies down. There's a lull, you know, there's a little quiet time. And then the circus hits town, right? Shit hits the fan. And it all starts in again. And then, oh, gee, you know, poor victims, and send us a bunch of money and blah, blah, blah. And keep on cutting down Cindy Watts. That's part of the whole program, right? Keep on pretending that anybody's being harassed, right? Well, they're the ones harassing us. I mean, come on. The actual people discussing this case are so few. The actual people who care about this case are so few. And they don't want us to say that. They don't want us to keep saying, like, look at this, another scumbag attacker channel. Look at that, another scumbag attacker channel. Look at that, another lying sack of crap. They don't want us to keep pointing out the obvious. Because they can't, you know, shuffle their money around and use YouTube to shuffle their money around. If they have someone standing here going, whoa, this looks kind of nasty. So I just want to say very clearly for any scumbag attacker who listens to this video, we are so through with your bullshit. We are through with it. Your crappy comments. Ooh, you're bashing a dead woman. Ooh. You know what? That was 2018. It didn't work for you in 2018. It didn't work for you in 2019. It didn't work for you in 2020. It's not going to work for you in 2021. Mrs. Fluffer says, I've read comments and a lot of people do think CW didn't kill SW. And Mrs. Fluffer, what you may not know is that within 2 months of the tragedy hitting the headlines, in a lot of discussion groups, that was the belief of most of the people. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at those videos and to go, okay, there's something going on in this house, right? Boy, there was something going on in this house. You have a little girl whining, crying all the time, hungry all the time, sick all the time, chopped off hair, wanting long hair all the time. She's whining and crying, and her mother says, do you need a haircut? Like, okay, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know there was something wrong going on in that house, something very wrong. Within 2 months of the case hitting the headlines, and probably before that, but I know within 2 months of that case hitting the headlines, I would dare say that in the groups that I saw, the majority of people discussing this case believed that Christopher Watts didn't kill anybody. If there was medical abuse going on, how far of a stretch is it? How far of a stretch is it? Look at what's her name, Lacey Spears, I think. How far of a stretch is it? And why on earth do we have to fight so hard to be able to say, hey, wait a minute here. What's the truth? What is the truth? Our criminal justice system is based on transparency. The public has a right to know. Why, in this case, are we not being told the truth? Munchausen by proxy is a very serious issue of public concern, which is part of the reason why the basis of our criminal justice system is transparency, so that issues of public concern can be raised and discussed, and we can promote awareness, right? Not in the case of Christopher Watts. In the case of Christopher Watts, you are supposed to believe that when she was dousing poor little Bella's face with water, that she was Mother of the Year. When she was flying off to Arizona, even though she claimed she was spotting and cramping and hadn't bothered to get prenatal care in 15 weeks, she was Mother of the Year. That when she said lots of Tylenol, that she was Mother of the Year. Well, after all, she did more than 95% of the other women out there. You know, Christopher Watts, he's just a monster. Oh, his mother? Oh, she's just a narcissistic bitch. Right? But his wife? Oh, she was Mother of the Year. No, she wasn't Mother of the Year based on the videos that were left online after her death. Those videos clearly showed a little girl named Bella who looked miserable, who looked fearful, who looked sick. Yes, Cosmic, so successful. Oh, yes. Let's ride on that little dream train for a couple minutes here. 99.9% of the people who sign up for product-based MLMs in the United States fail to ever see 1 penny of profit. 1 penny of profit. And what about all the other little details? Do you remember how she wanted the receipt from the restaurant because evidently she writes everything off? Oh, so that was her common practice, to write off receipts when her husband took the woman he was doinking out for dinner? I hope they talked about the product-based MLMs. But wait a minute. She would have had to have had an income to write it off from. Exactly, Chacha. $70,000. She walked away. They walked away from $70,000 in debt. Job at the hospital? Really? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I don't believe she made any money at any of the MLMs she signed up for. What about people in real life who are being harmed by this whole storyline? What about somebody with lupus who actually goes in the sun because, hey, if Shannon could, why not? Why not try it? Must be okay, because, you know, what we're being told is that some forms of lupus, it's safe to go in the sun. And like I said before, they really should probably tell Mayo Clinic and, you know, all the different, you know, Johns Hopkins. They should probably inform them of that, since the shiners know best, right? What if there's somebody with lupus who is actually going into the sun thinking, well, you know, Shannon was fine going in the sun all the time. What if somebody with lupus actually drinks? Maybe they weren't drinking. Maybe they decided, well, gee, if Shannon Watts can drink and have lupus and fibro and all that other stuff, well, you know, what if? What if somebody actually purchased products from an MLM believing the claims that Shannon Watts was cured? What if they got sick? Sicker? What if they were harmed? What if there's a mom out there who heard about the Benadryl and Tylenol nightcap and thought, oh, that's a good idea? And what about all of us who have been getting attacked for almost 3 years straight? I don't know about you, but death threats kind of bug me. You know, they kind of bug me. The disgusting text message from North Carolina the first week of October of 2018, yeah, kind of bugs me. The videos that they create and post online, the lies that they post online, the video that Alice herself has online, committing slander, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Yeah, that kind of bugs me. Hey guys, I have a question. What on earth? Okay, I found it. No, maybe I didn't find it. Let me look. I'm looking for something. I'll be right back. Okay, this is weird. Another weird experience with the case of Christopher Watts. Very interesting, though. After the case of Christopher Watts hit the headline news, about a month after, I checked on the Better Business Bureau website and I searched the name of the MLM and it didn't show up. And we started discussing it in the case discussion group on the case of Christopher Watts, saying, why wouldn't they be on the Better Business Bureau? I just went to the Better Business Bureau and I can't find it. What's that about? 3 days after we were discussing it, that would have been mid-September of 2018, all of a sudden they registered. They had started their company. They founded their company in 2012. So it took them 6 years, evidently, from what we could tell, to register with the Better Business Bureau. And it happened to occur 3 days after we were discussing it in our little group. Kind of like that quit claim deed, you know? Soon after we were discussing the quit claim deed, that suddenly became an issue also. So somebody help me here. Go to the Better Business Bureau and see if you can find it. Maybe I'm just not searching correctly, right? Okay, I think I might have found it finally. Nope. Not yet. Interesting. Anyone have any luck finding it? Okay, let me put a hyphen in. Maybe I need a hyphen to make it work. Mine says, we're sorry, we found no results. Sandy, can you email me the link to that? Because I just keep coming up with an error message saying, sorry, we found no results. I've tried it all sorts of different ways. Miss Mensa at Gmail. Sorry, I just saw your comment. So it looks like it's just us. You know what? It looks like it's just us, a handful of people actually discussing this case. Okay, good. I got it, Sandy. Thank you very much. Okay. And the piss poor part about this, you guys, is if it's only a handful of us discussing this case, then it's only a handful of us with the guts to discuss this case, number one, but also a handful of us that care enough about the fact that those videos were so disturbing that we do believe that it needs to be discussed. That's really sad. You know, if it was a couple who had 20 dogs in their basement who weren't being fed, oh, I bet everybody would want to discuss that, wouldn't they? Right? Okay, I'm on the Better Business Bureau, and it says customer reviews 2.57 out of 5. It says 157 complaints closed in the last 3 years, 54 complaints closed in the last 12 months. Really? What I'm curious about is whether or not anybody actually had lupus or fibro or whatever, and if they got sick from using it. Okay, here's one. April 13th of 2021, I placed an order, included 3 items, blah, blah, blah. I only received 2, blah, blah, blah. Here's one that says, ordered a part from blank, never received it after 2 months. A part for what? Here's one that says, let's see, March 12th of 2021, I seriously have never been so disappointed by a company in my life. On February 13, 2021, I placed an order which shipped out on February 14. After waiting their asked time frame of 12 business days before they would send a replacement order, in that time I was refunded my shipping fee. On March 2nd, I reached out to let them know I still had not received my order and was told I would need to wait for them to deem the package lost, blah, blah, blah. I ordered my month's supply on March 4th. I paid $164.99. This is a new one. My coworker had also ordered the same day. No one has answered my inquiries about my shipment, blah, blah, blah. Here's another one. Paid for the product, but haven't received anything. Here's another one that says, I feel like I have been done wrong. After I asked customer service to cancel and they sent it anyway, and now they are going to keep $46.49 of my money. Here's a new one, requesting refund for product that was not shipped. Here's one, missing assortment, blah, blah, blah. It's all about shipping. That's really interesting because when they were first up in like 2018, 2019, there were people complaining about how they got sick. And now I see that they're complaining about shipping. Isn't that interesting? Interesting. Man. Another little area of this case that makes you go, huh? Paula thinks that CW is being blackmailed. Paula says, I think CW is being blackmailed, and it's the only reason he remains silent. I also believe he does not know everything that went down. So do you think that's why they have this organized hate and harassment campaign to try to keep anybody from discussing this case? Or do you think it's as simple as the money drying up as soon as they aren't in total control of the discussion? Exactly. Everything in this case makes me go, huh? Money, money, money. Follow the money. But you know, you can only stand seeing all these little dramatic acts playing out over and over again before you just go, they're all lying. All of them. We're the only ones discussing this case. Oh, thank you, Sandy. That's helpful. Very helpful. Mrs. Fluffer says, I still think SW hurt herself. I think so too, Mrs. Fluffer. So why wouldn't Christopher Watts say so? Do you think that Paula might be right? I mean, just look at how we've been attacked, right? What is he being told? What is he afraid of? Mrs. J-Dub says, who took them to Survey? Whoever it was evidently didn't use Christopher Watts' truck to do it, right? Or they would have picked up on something, right? I can't think of any other true crime case where the stories change over and over again. I can't think of any other true crime case where people get attacked for discussing it. I can't think of any other true crime case where people were getting attacked before we even started discussing this crappy case. And almost 3 years later, and the scumbag attackers are still as active as ever. Mrs. Fluffer says, what about the hairs or fibers in CW's truck? Chacha says 15 weeks and not one doctor appointment. How about the retired nurse routine? Brandy says, funny, there's only one person involved we never hear from. Yeah, Cosmic. What a joke that was. What a joke that was. And I'll tell you, that whole connection with Christopher Watts' sister is very disturbing when you consider how much Christopher Watts' mother has been under attack. It's all very disturbing. Yep, Nurse Nene, the retired nurse, successful stay-at-home mom who was a highly successful executive with a billion-dollar company. And Cosmic, it wasn't just the banana either. It was the one before her who said that within 2 months, she was going to have a 35C filed. Within 2 months. And then 5 months later, she was like, yeah, I might take a vacation. Well, actually, that was like 2 or 3 months later. She was going to take a vacation. And nobody ever mentioned, like, why haven't you filed the 35C that you said within 2 months you'd be filing? And why, when actual lawyers offered to help, did the Watts family turn them away and decide instead to go with a YouTuber with no credentials, who said that her credentials don't really matter because she knows people who have credentials? Just one. Sandy said she found one, just one, where the doctor said stop taking it. I wonder how that works, if they're able to somehow get them removed from there. I don't know. Because we saw a lot of complaints before that. Yes, she owned her own company. Yep. She was a retired nurse. She owned her own company. Don't forget, when she was younger, she made $500,000 a year. Sandy, on the one that you found, do they say if they had any sort of long-term chronic disease or illness? Thank you for searching for that. I'm curious if they had lupus or fibro or anything. She earned her car, right? She earned her car. Really? How many people signed up for MLMs thinking, oh, I want to earn that car too? So how many people have been harmed by this case? Not only those of us who have been attacked and harassed and harmed by the scumbag attackers, how many other people have been harmed by this case? Oh, wow. That sounds serious, Sandy. So they thought it was a good idea to stick on a Scooby-Doo? That's too bad. September 11th of 2018, they hadn't even started they weren't even on the Better Business Bureau at that point. The date they started was something like September 16, I thought. I might be wrong. Let's see if there's a way to see when it started, when they signed up for it. I thought it was September 16, but I'm just going by memory, so I don't know. They signed up for the Better Business Bureau on September 14 of 2018. So how do they have a complaint from September 11? I'm going to Google something here. Let's see. Interesting. Hmm. Oh, here it says that the Better Business Bureau file was opened in December of 2012. It was accredited by the BBB in 2018. Interesting, because when we searched for it, we couldn't find anything. So what's that mean? The file was open and accredited since 2018. Interesting. This case just keeps on giving, doesn't it? Cosmic says, Miss Mensa, do you have any new books coming out? I have the part 3 to Cindy Watts, A Woman of Strength and Love. Part 3 will be out within a couple days. That's on Kindle. And I can pull that up here and see, to just give you a little idea of what's going to be in there. Here are the topics for part 3. One is titled, Both Kids Are Sick Again. I'm scrolling. One is titled, Come Hell or High Water. One is titled, Keep the Girls Away from Her Parents? ? That's what Cindy Watts was told by Christopher Watts' wife. And last but not least, we have Where Did Her Best Friend Go? ? And, well, actually, it's Where Did Her Supposed Best Friend Go? ? And then the last one in part 3 of Cindy Watts, A Woman of Strength and Love, is Both Children in Daycare Full Time? ? So that's what will be in part 3. You guys are talking about the caliber of her culinary knowledge. You know she didn't call it a recipe, right? She called it the directions. Yeah, Cosmic, it's interesting to me how many people are interested in reading about Cindy Watts. I thought that was, more people are interested in reading about the Cindy Watts, that little mini series. A lot more people are interested in reading about Christopher Watts' mother than they are reading about him. Mrs. J-Dub says, have you written anything about Jodi Arias? I only wrote one essay on Jodi Arias. I was super busy, so I didn't really get into that case. And I can't remember exactly what it's called. I think it was called Scapegoat or something. I can't remember. Because I did a Scapegoat series where I did quite a few cases under that title. But I talked about the attacks against the defense witnesses and how I thought that was really surprising and terrible. And about the fact that, yes, what Jodi Arias did was terrible. And at the same time, I think she was mistreated. It's what's interesting about the case of Christopher Watts is that previous to this case, regular people have not been harassed in the true crime community. I think, I'm not sure what year it was. Do you remember the case of the missing child, Kyron Horman? That's the first case I remember where all-out harassment seemed to be allowed. And it was terrible. I mean, people would travel to the stepmother's home and picket, have a picket line out front and yell at her, where's Kyron? Where's Kyron? And she was never a suspect. She was never a suspect. And they were allowed to actually, try to ruin her life, right? It was ridiculous. So that was weird, but that was a person involved in the case itself, right? And then a few years later, the Jodi Arias thing, then they were harassing the defense experts, I think 2 or 3 of the expert witnesses for the defense. And again, people maybe not involved with the case itself, but people involved with the trial. And then a few years later, the case of Christopher Watts, and they're attacking whoever they want to attack. Right. It was definitely overkill, Mrs. J-Dub. It's not saying at all that what she did was okay. It wasn't. What she did was terrible. But I do think that she was abused. When she testified, she did have certain ways of saying things that seemed credible. And it's kind of along the same lines as the case of Christopher Watts, too. It's like, why did the victim have to be raised up to some sort of sainthood? Why wasn't it okay to discuss the possibility? Why were people being harassed if they, specifically the defense experts, if they were of the professional opinion that she was being abused, why would that have opened the door for them to be harassed? They shouldn't have been harassed. That was their professional opinion. I think she was abused. I think what she did was terrible, but I think she was abused. Take a look at the case of Susan Wright, who was abused by her husband, according to, I think, what the jurors figured, what the court figured. If not the first round, then when they did the appeal on the sentencing, what she did was absolutely terrible. I think she stabbed her husband like 193 times or something. I mean, that's just absolutely terrible. It's horrific, but it doesn't mean that we can't have the discussion on whether or not she was an abused woman, right? But in the case of Jodi Arias, that wasn't allowed. Exactly, Kimberly. He was the devout Mormon. Wasn't he like really well thought of in the church, right? And then, you just look at a few details of that case and you go, okay, yeah, okay. A lot of people were bashing Jodi Arias for joining the church, just trying to like get in his good graces or something. Well, what about bashing him for having her join the church? He's the one who baptized her. That's a good question, Paula. How is it that he wasn't found right away? He had like 3 roommates, didn't he? 2 or 3 roommates. And the whole idea that everybody said she was stalking him and slicing his tires and stuff, it's like, wait a minute. Was there ever a police report? Was she ever found guilty of that? I mean, that narrative was pretty powerful, wasn't it? And then her own lawyer wrote a book about how terrible she was. Oh my goodness. Well, I think he was expected to be on vacation or whatever, so it would make sense people wouldn't have been looking for him. But if he had roommates who lived right in the house, that's kind of odd. You guys remember the defense witness who was getting harassed so badly? I spoke with her at length. That was really interesting talking with her back in late 2018. A really neat conversation with her. She was cool. Yes, Mrs. J. Dub, that is her first name. And, I've got news for anybody who thinks that she didn't know what she was talking about. She's probably one of the most experienced, most highly respected experts in the country. I think the punchline of that entire trial was when she said something about, if you were in my group, Mr. Martinez, I'd be putting you in a timeout. I thought that was priceless. That was back before the YouTube True Crime Corner was screwed with so badly. Back in, what was that? Was that trial 2015? I'm not sure. Whenever it was. Back then, we could still watch trials without having to listen to anybody sitting there trying to give their commentary on it and just giving us little bits and pieces of it. They used to have full trials on all the time. You could pick any trial and watch the whole thing start to finish without having to listen to any channel creator talk about it. Now we just get little snippets of stuff. Again, follow the money. And I think it's interesting that the first person to start attacking those of us who were targeted in 2018 claims a direct connection with one of the main owners of a channel that now has the access to the trials. Isn't that interesting? Kind of makes you wonder. Seriously, you used to be able to just punch in the last name of the defendant and you could watch their trial start to finish, but now it's all changed. They pushed a lot of the channels out that were carrying the trials coverage. They pushed them out. They hired one of them to work with them, and then the rest of them went bye-bye. And now all you have are a bunch of people trying to get their hands on whatever footage they can. That was an interesting one, Cosmic. That was a very interesting one, the Casey Anthony trial. Hey guys, I just saw the time. We've talked for over an hour. Let's go ahead and click off, and we'll say our good night, John Boy. Good night, Grandma. Good night, Mary Ellen. And click off, and then we'll touch base toward the end of the week. Everybody have a wonderful week. Get a lot of work done. Be safe. Be healthy. Be happy. Oh, and if you are a father or if you are a mother who is pulling down double duty, then happy Father's Day to you. And happy Father's Day to all the aunts and uncles and neighbors and friends who are stepping up to the plate to help parents raise their children. Because remember, it takes a village. But seriously, if you're stepping up to help out when there's been abuse or abandonment or divorce, then good for you. Give yourself a pat on the back. And if you fathers are maybe not acting the same way on all the other days of the year that you're acting on Father's Day, then step it up. Because that's great if you can celebrate Father's Day with your kids, right? But if Father's Day is a different kind of day for you than it normally goes, then step it up, because your kids deserve for you to actually be a good father. And so does their mother. Everybody have a great night and have a great week.